is.
All right, welcome everyone to our second episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers, coming at you from the movie hotbed of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Steve, and this hunk of manliness next to me is my big brother.
Oh, me. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah, there you go. And thanks for tuning in to 20/4, a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago while drinking at least 4 modern beers. Why modern beers? Honestly, because our taste buds simply cannot handle 2.5 hours of anything close to Coors or Bud Light. And while this is October and a Sam Adams Oktoberfest is delicious, I have a friend who recently had only that for about a week, and she would agree that we need more choices. We need more. Although Sam Adams is very good. For those wondering, we chose 20 years not only because it's a good number, but both of us were out of high school by then, and our memories going further back are getting foggier and foggier. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Steve.
How's it going?
It's great.
Good. So, we are going to hop right into our first segment of the night before we get into our movie, which is Drinking Buddies. I'm going to start this whole thing over because that was awful.
Garbage take.
That was awful, yeah. We're going to hop right into our first segment before we get into our movie. Our first segment is Drinking Buddies, where Tim walks us through our friends for the week. Most of our beers will inevitably be from Minnesota or Wisconsin area, but sometimes we'll venture further out as we are able. Take it away, good sir.
All right, for Drinking Buddies, for this episode, we decided to have beer options, which were a little bit more, let's say, thematically synchronous.
Ooh.
With the movie. So,
big word.
I know.
Thematically.
I know, you like that. So we've got some styles which may have once been considered as perhaps outside the norm or pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable for beer, or dare we say a mutation of traditional strains.
Sure. I think we dare say that.
There we go.
Yep.
We'll be enjoying some beers which come from outside the direct Twin Cities area, with one exception, and all are not necessarily your run-of-the-mill options due to the ingredients or seasonality of them. So, from our friends at LTD Brewing in Hopkins, Minnesota, we've got their 2020 version of Sleepwalker, a triple IPA. Just a beast of a beer.
Mm-hmm.
From lovely Decorah, Iowa, outside the city's area, we've got
Who went to Decorah, Iowa for college?
Luther College?
Was it Luther? Was that? I think that might have been you.
It might have been me. So,
interesting.
Lovely Toppling Goliath Brewing Company, their Dragon Fandango, a sour beer with mango, passion fruit, and dragon fruit. From our friends at Brewing Project out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, it's their Dare Mighty Things IPA. They change it up all the time, but this is their seasonal option, their wet hopped option with El Dorado, Sabro? Yeah, we'll go with one of them. Sure. And Wet Citra and Mosaic hops. And then out of Baxter, Minnesota, our friends at Jack Pine Brewing, it's their Bonfire S'more Stout, which is a bit of a marshmallow aroma with hints of milk chocolate and a roasty graham cracker finish. Those are our lovely options for drinking.
That sounds like an interesting lineup. I will, since I wasn't really paying attention to them, I will have to focus on that later. What are we starting with?
We're going to have, I think, to start off with the wet hopped Dare Mighty Things IPA, so we'll crack that open here.
Do it up.
Figure it, might as well get those wet hops out.
I don't even know what to say.
I know, exactly.
That's interesting.
Oh, that was totally, speaking of synchronous.
Yeah, we should use that instead of the clapper next time. All right. Well, as mentioned before, this is our second episode, the anxiously awaited follow-up, really, to our critically acclaimed premiere episode. And tonight we are taking an about-face from the world of coming-of-age drama and diving right into the genre that has basically dominated the movie industry since superheroes. Our movie this episode is 2000's summer hit, X-Men. I can already hear a few people rolling their eyes at the thought of a superhero movie. One in particular comes to mind. But the simple fact is, you cannot throw a remote at the TV without hitting a superhero film somewhere on it right now. They are everywhere. X-Men, for those not familiar, follows a team of mutants who have been taken in by Professor Charles Xavier, a mutant himself, who are joined by a new mutant with no memory of his earlier life, Wolverine. The group must attempt to stop a sinister plot, that's right, sinister, by the mega villain Magneto. And along the way, they face discrimination for who they are and possible government interference into their lives. Mutants are a newer phenomenon in the movie at this point, and they regularly experience public fear and an outcry for registration because people see them as a danger to society as a whole. The film stars Sir Patrick Stewart as Xavier, Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto, Hugh Jackman in his Hollywood debut as Wolverine, Halle Berry as Storm, Famke Janssen, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, James Marsden as Cyclops, and Anna Paquin as Rogue. Notably as well, this features Stan Lee in his first Marvel comic cameo. Tim, initial memories on X-Men? Do you have anything that stood out?
I just remember the time thinking that we had grown up being obsessed with the cartoon that was on Fox or whatever it was.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And loving, because we never really read comics growing up. At least I don't have memories of them. Like
I did more than you, but yeah, I agree.
But it wasn't like comic books were our jam.
No.
But I just remember this being a totally different take because there wasn't much from a superhero standpoint in theaters prior to this outside of Superman and Batman. So it was pretty cool to think about something we grew up with coming to the big stage or the big screen like this. And I just remember it just totally knocked out of the park when I saw it. How about you?
I do agree in the sense of it was unlike anything that was out there that we had seen. And the 90s were dominated by Batman.
Yep.
And it was just something new to see a team of mutants and superheroes come out. This was just not something that was out there. And now we take it for granted. And so it is interesting to think back when we saw it and say, wow, this is something unique. So I definitely loved it the first time, as did a lot of people, which segue into our next segment, which is the social network, where we take a look back at how the movie was viewed by critics and fans alike. Never will we ever give you the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Nope.
Because that would be like allowing a disgruntled waiter tell you how the food is at their old restaurant. You can't quite trust the opinion of that person. So we just aren't going to use Rotten Tomatoes. For what it is worth, I don't know if you have this or not, but the IMDb score was a pretty solid 7.4 out of 10. I'd take a little more stock at that.
Yes.
I remember critics generally liked it, but the genre was not respected for almost 20 more years, really, until obviously Black Panther. And even this year, I've read multiple articles about the significance of this movie that we simply just didn't know 20 years ago. So I think reviews are just different now on superhero movies. So Tim's got our social network, and what we got?
Exactly. We have a few high points from what stood out. But yeah, you're right. General critical consensus at the time was positive, but certainly nothing stellar or overwhelming like somewhat what we see now. It seemed like most critics deemed the movie just okay or an acceptable entry into the comic book genre, considering by 2000, like we said, the most prominent forays into superhero fare were just Superman and Batman series, which, as we know, unfortunately had diminishing returns on the viewers' investments. We all know about the Batsuit nipples. So Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave it a mixed review, saying newcomer Jackman energizes the film with fire and flashy humor, yet called the plot thin, and anyone not playing Wolverine, noting especially Stewart and McKellen, are drastically underused. Jeff Giles of Newsweek magazine, remember those were things that were printed and sent out?
Yeah, what's
to people?
Newsweek?
I know, Newsweek.
Interesting.
What a crazy entity that was. That magazine complimented the film's consistently inventive vision, but overall it has only a few truly thrilling moments. And our big man, Roger Ebert.
Good old Rod.
2.5 out of 4 stars. I always love like the half-star nuance of a film. Like, just crazy to think about. Criticized it.
I'm sorry, but we do that with beer. Like, I don't know if it's a 4 or a 4.25, so, I guess I'll go with that. So I can't give him too much crap about the half star.
Touche. That's some good perspective, actually.
Dang right.
Ebert gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars, criticized it for being too broad of an origin story with too many mutants who, quote, often come on stage, do their tricks, and disappear. yet also praised its level of restraint and introspection for a superhero epic. Ultimately, though, did give it a thumbs down.
Really?
Back in the day, remember that was like Emperor, thumbs up, thumbs down, and that was such a unnuanced take. Yeah. I mean, it was a great branding thing, but
yeah, it was 50-50, right? There was nothing. There was no side thumb.
Exactly.
It was just thumbs up or thumbs down, or then I remember when they would say like enthusiastic thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd be like, cool. Then you have a
really big thumbs up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So ultimately, gave it a thumbs down. Not surprisingly, Academy Awards, no nominations. It's not something that should surprise anybody. However, it was very successful at the Saturn Awards, the annual awards presented by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, which honestly I had never heard of until just this week researching for this podcast. So kudos to them for being out there. Won recognition in 6 categories: costume design, writing, direction from Bryan Singer, supporting actress, Rebecca Romijn, best actor, Hugh Jackman, and best science fiction film went to X-Men of 2000.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, Saturn Awards. What do you know?
It's a thing.
Yes, that's a thing.
Well, thank you. I learned something new.
Enlightening, right?
There we go. All right. So actually, that's where we're at. We're going to watch X-Men, and feel free to watch along with us. We're going to pause the podcast, and we'll go from there. So, released in 2000 by Fox, directed by Bryan Singer, like it or not. Here is X-Men.